Give me fuel, give me fire, give me that which I desire.
Alright, welcome back to Wind Tunnel TV, and tonight it's the Extreme Power League here at Daytona for 250 miles of racing action in the next-gen cars. I'm Dean Doucette, in the booth with me, Mr. TJ Bartell. TJ, these next-gens out here, they've proven a little more tricky on the super speedways than your standard vehicle.
Yeah, you're right. A little bit different aerodynamic package than everybody's used to with the old car and then the current machines they're on. And, the independent rear suspension really makes these cars drive a bit differently. So it's definitely something to get used to.
Definitely is. That brings us right into our keys to the race here. Patience, pitting, and strategy. Patience gonna be huge for these guys here tonight. 250 miles is a long way to run here around Daytona. There's no need to get into stuff early. We'll see who has it and who doesn't. I mean, we've seen some breakaways last time on a super speedway, so just from sheer speed, so that could be interesting as well. But pitting, always big, TJ, on these super speedways.
Yeah, pitting is really kind of one of the biggest keys to doing well at the plate tracks, and it's all about when and how you pit. You obviously can't pit by yourself. You need drafting help. And the other thing is, you just can't make a mistake on pit road. A mistake on pit road, speeding, sliding through your box, getting into somebody can really just end your night.
Absolutely can end your night, probably will end your night. Last week, of course, we had a thrilling finish. We had a thrilling finish in week one. Another last week where we seen Dylan Carrier, leading this thing going into four. He gets loose coming out of four, and Monahan comes up and steals it. Week one, we had, I believe, Keith Long came up and stole that race on the last lap. So I don't know, TJ, do we expect anything different here tonight?
Well, considering that pattern of exciting finishes, Daytona can absolutely offer exciting finishes. So I don't look for that to change tonight.
Yeah, I look for much of the same. I look for it to be pretty calm early, but watch out when these guys get going. Guys starting to grit up right now and get ready to get racing here at Daytona. And the nerves get going. And what do you like to do out there, TJ, when you go to start one of these things, one of these super speedway races?
Well, the super speedways actually for me, because I'm pretty high strung. I'm usually fairly relaxed with these because my mindset is I'm just gonna ride the first part of the race anyway. I'm not gonna put myself in a bad spot. So for me, these are a little bit more relaxing. But if you find yourself in the middle of the pack sometimes on these starts and first runs, they can be a little bit nerve wracking. But we'll see how these guys handle it.
Indeed, we will. Let's get right into tonight's starting grid. It's Philip Willis in the number 4 on the pole here this evening with a time of 50.099. Dylan Carrier, same time. I mean, just by a hair on the outside of row number 1. It's Joshua Gathright. He'll be starting third along with Andrew Schroeder on the outside of row 2. In row 3, it's Cody McRae and Justin Briegel. Kevin Menepace will be starting in 7th with Matthew Leader in 8th. Jessica Child starts 9th with Jeremy Osborne in 10th. It's Jeremy May and Keith Long in row number 6. We go a little further back to 13th. It's Julian Condi, Joshua Neal 14th, Blackburn, Monahan, Ruckel, Rother, and others all rounding out this field of 21 cars, including, you see, Tong, Hartley, and Harris there at the back.
And a track like this, it's nice if you can start up front, get that pole position, get a nice pit stall selection, but it really isn't as imperative to qualify up front at Daytona. Some guys want to just hang out in the back and just kind of click the laps off. So that may be some strategy here.
It definitely might be. I mean, teams so big, teammates, friends, you want to get hooked up with them. One guy wants to run up front, one guy wants to run out back. I mean, what do you do in that situation, TJ? Who do you defer to, or do you?
I guess it depends on who's the leader of the team, and you kind of either do what they want or you do your own thing, and then the teammate thing goes out the window. But you like to definitely find somebody that you're comfortable working with and try and get near them and stay with them, and it gives you that little bit of relaxation that you've got somebody around you that you're going to be able to work with.
Yeah, I know for me, one of my favorites is right around the back and wait for pit stops. Use those pit stops to gain those spots back. Stay out on the track and just, you're in 30th place, 20th place, and the next thing you know, you're riding third after, while other guys have pitted. So I don't even see the point early on, but everybody does it a different way out here. We're going to find out how these guys do it. Should be highly entertaining.
Exactly. Different mindsets. Some guys want to be up front, think that they have less chance of getting into trouble, and some guys want to ride in the back and avoid the trouble. So we'll see how this works out for all these guys tonight.
All right, Willis and Carrier leading them down. Pace car pulling off the track. Gathright and Schroeder in row 2, and here we go. Daytona 250 off and running.
It's like a good clean start so far. No real abrupt moves.
No, all looking good here. The thing we'll be watching for here is watch these cars, particularly on the bottom row, and we'll see if anybody gets that push up. We've seen a lot of guys where almost like the car wanted to break loose, and they had to kind of walk it up the track to keep it from spinning. TJ, is it that much different? You've run a little of this next gen stuff. Are these cars that much more finicky out there?
They are a little bit more finicky. I've never run them in a race, but I've run them in practice sessions with other cars around, and they're definitely something you got to get used to, because they do not drive like the Gen 6 or like the Xfinity car does, but they just have a little bit different way the rear end of these cars feels, I think, from that independent rear suspension.
Right now, Regal on the outside, or no, he's on the inside. This is Schroeder on the outside. And Schroeder's getting a push there. That looks like it's probably Briegel. I don't know if I'm getting guys mixed up quite yet. Yes, indeed, that is Briegel. So these two really working well together, and already that high line looking dominant.
Yeah, those 5 cars, the first 5 cars on the high line really seem to be formed up pretty well, and it's showing because they've got a lot of momentum.
And you see already a little wiggle from Schroeder out front. And that's something that we've seen a lot of in these cars. You'd be hyper aware of that. Like we said, these guys are racing pretty hard here this early in the race, lap 3 of 100. And we'll just see if they decide to, keep it calm, or they want to keep pressing it here.
Yeah, if I was the guys in that outside line, I think I would stay there. They look formed up really nicely, and the thing that's good about the high line, in my personal perspective as a driver, is you got a lot of room to work with. If you get a little loose, you get a little tight, you got room to play with, where you don't have that necessarily on the bottom.
Monahan goes to the bottom, last week's winner, and he's looking to get hooked up here and head towards the front as they're all fanning out on the high side. Cars still not looking particularly stable to me.
Now, they do look like they're moving around a lot. I don't know if that's air or if it's setup or what, but they do look like they're moving a bit.
Monahan continuing to work the bottom. The 22 of Jeremy May slides down in front of him. That's going to break some of that momentum. There goes the 89 of Gathright up to the top side. So guys switching around to and fro. Cody McRae heads down to the bottom.
Yeah, that really broke up that high line momentum there when those 2 cars dropped down out of that top side. We'll see if they can't make up some ground on the bottom. But there's only 3 of them up tight on the bottom, so I don't think they're gonna make much progress right at the present.
No, right now it's all Schroeder. I mean, Andrew Schroeder out front, and he's just been doing a great job out of Linden, New Jersey. So the Jets fan there, straight from New Jersey, go figure. And what about those Jets? How they been doing this year? I think they've had their ups and downs out there with their quarterbacks and whatnot, but probably don't know enough about it. Being a poor Lions fan, we just got no football to talk about this week.
The Jets could only hope. I don't watch football much, but the Jets could only hope that they're as good as the 048 car is. It's pretty sporty.
Absolutely. He's looking great, representing them better than they represent themselves.
I think if I was Schroeder, though, I would want to stay in front of Riegel, because Riegel seems to be a really good pusher. He really keeps the momentum up when those two get hooked up.
Yeah, they really look like they got something, and this is a little different than last week. Last week we seen 3 or 4 guys were able to get hooked up and kind of walk away a little bit, which was odd for a super speedway, but not happening here tonight other than Schroeder. Now Monahan's joined that group. Ooh, and Carrier, or is that Tong? I think that's Tong, slides down to the bottom.
He made a very abrupt move down to the bottom.
That's
that got below
Condi.
the yellow. That was quite the move.
Yeah, that was Condi there making that move. And, you know, speaking of moves and all that, why don't we get a better look here? We hop on board with Matthew Leiter, or Leader, I'm not sure, but which one, Matthew, will get it right. But you see here, riding along with them, just the movement in these cars, the 89, kind of moving up, down, back up. I mean, this is very difficult to try and, you know, you don't want to get on the bumper when you see this kind of movement, TJ.
No, you're right, because you can't line your bumper up on his if his car's moving around and or your car is moving around. So you kind of follow. But the other thing that really is a issue with when you're following cars and they're moving around like this, it can really be tough to keep your concentration because their cars are moving around in front of you, and it's kind of tough to you got to keep track of where your line is, where the yellow line is, and just race your car and not pay as much attention to the car in front of you, though it's difficult to do.
Well, as Monahan takes the lead, it's Tong pushing here. Now, Tong, we remember from the last race, Nicholas Tong was maybe the best pusher, but pretty darn aggressive too during the entire race, and some guys were concerned. I thought he did an excellent job, but it's a fine line, isn't it, TJ, between... Oh, we got a yellow on the track. Oh, no, and it's Schrader, our early leader, along with Carrier. Both of these guys have had issues. Oh, my goodness. Let's get a look in on it.
That's big because they had some strong race cars.
Oh, and you see it up ahead. Oh, and there he goes into the wall. Wow, let's go back, see if we can't get a little better look here.
Yeah, when he had to pull up off the bottom row there to keep from making contact, boy, it really made his car all sorts of loose, and he just could not catch up and hang on to that thing. That was violent.
So we look here at the top lane at the front of the pack there. We can have Schroeder. Looks all right. He looks okay. Oh, and he's down there. Almost contact. Jerks the wheel around a couple of times. Contact. Into the wall he goes, and you see other guys getting in there and getting in problems. Wow. Very unfortunate. Yeah,
at first I thought he was trying to side draft maybe, but it looks like his car got loose, and it kind of sent him down the track, and then he was trying to chase and correct it, and it just got away from him.
And that's how quick you can go from the front to the back here at the Super Speedway. Carrier's in. Schroeder's in. Carrier slides through his stall. It looks like these two are the only ones pitting right now. We'll see if anybody gets a wave around. Looks like Eric Ruckel, going to get that wave around here in this pink machine out there. I'm not sure if it's Cancer Awareness Month or what, but if it is, you know, thumbs up to that.
Yeah, I believe October is, so I'm pretty sure that's what his car is.
So Sean Rother's in, Osborne coming in. Ruckel's in, and Schrader's still there, and
And
man, that's got to be painful.
oh, absolutely. And that's only 8 laps in a green flag racing, and it looks like the handling was going away on some of these cars. Kind of makes you nervous for if we have any real long runs. These guys could be really fighting to hang on them.
Rother creeping around pit lane here. Looks like he's going awful slow there, but being safe, no speeding penalty for him. See Ruckel getting the service, Blackburn's getting the service. Meanwhile, it's Monahan out front, our last week's winner here at, I believe that was Nashville. Was it Nashville or?
I believe it was Nashville.
Let's go with Nashville anyway, but Monahan winning on the last lap pass where Carrier got a little bit loose out of 4, and just he really got up there and stole that one. I called him a thief in the night, TJ, in his interview, and I don't know if that was quite fair to him, but I think he mostly agreed. It was very fortuitous of him to get that victory.
And that's the thing about putting yourself in a position to capitalize if somebody else makes a mistake, and you're stealing a win, but he kept himself there, with that opportunity to pounce when it happened.
Well, that's the great point about racing, isn't it? Like if you just carry your car, show some patience and a little bit of wanting ability to wait it out, because it can be not only the last few laps, it can be the last corner. And all of a sudden, opportunity knocks, and you have to be in position to capitalize. He was, and I just love it when guys do that. That they come out of nowhere. It's not stealing; it's putting yourself, like you put it so well. They just put themselves in that position. But right now, Monahan, position 1, Condi up 11 spots, and 2, Tong third, and up 17 spots. So these top 3 have made big moves, and they're going to be looking. They look like they were getting hooked up again, TJ, and it reminded me of the last Super Speedway race with them, where I believe these 3 were at least some of the guys that were able up there with some speed to kind of pull away a little bit.
Yeah, and right now they find themselves in those open positions, and we'll see if they can't replicate what they did last time here.
See Tong in the all black car tonight. Not sure if that's trading paint's not loading or that's what he's got, but I kind of like it. Simple and menacing.
It is, and you know that car when you see it on the track because it is pure black.
All right, pace car off the track. Here we go one more time. Monahan and Tong up front. Green flag drops back to racing here at Daytona.
What a start by Tong.
Yeah, jumps right in front of Monahan and off he goes.
It almost looks like those two are working together to try and pull that move off.
Yeah, they very well could be. I mean, they've been working well together in the last time here, and I think you're seeing it again. And Condi's right in there. These 3 seem to be kind of working together.
Yeah, and that may be the plan for these guys to get hooked up here nose to tail and see if they can't pull away from this pack a little bit, give themselves some breathing room.
Yeah, it's surprising to hear anybody say that at a super speedway, but we've seen them be able to do it in the past, so see if they can at least shake someone off the back end. A little back in the pack, we look in on Keith Long up on the high side. He's got Braggle and Neal around there, McRae's around there. A lot of action back in here. You see someone coming up there. That's the 87 of Justin Briegel pushing up in the middle. You'll see a lot of that from these cars.
Yeah, these cars seem a lot more movie in the corners than, say, the Xfinity cars seem to kind of want to wander a little bit on the straightaways, and they're a little bit more tame in the corners, where these cars are kind of the opposite. They look a little bit more like they move in the corners than on the straightaways.
You see Schrader now a good lap down. Maybe 2, but it's at least 1 lap down.
Yeah, according to my scoring sheet, I have him 2 laps down.
That is so unfortunate. Out there leading this thing, and now he's hurting. It's Tom and Monahan getting hooked up here, starting to get away a little bit. I don't think they can hold that kind of gap, but they look pretty lined up here. You see how straight they're hanging.
Yeah, you can tell these guys are definitely trying to work together and kind of get themselves separated from this pack, which if they can do that, that's exactly what I would want to do too. Much less likely to find trouble if you can be out there in front by yourselves.
Now, TJ, we don't know, like 100 laps. Are you always thinking fuel mileage on these races? Are you always calculating and thinking, can it be 1 stop, 2 stop, all those kind of things? Or is it just too early?
Personally, whenever I get to a super speedway track, restrictor plate track, I'm thinking fuel mileage the whole entire time. I'm thinking of how can I save, how many stops do I have to make versus, some of the other guys pushing it harder. So as a driver myself, I'm always thinking about it. Now, whether these guys are or not, I don't know.
See here, the 89, Joshua Gathright going to the lead. He's got Matthew Later there, and he's pushing them. So these guys all of a sudden showing the pace.
Yeah, they got that top line formed up, and it shows how much momentum they could build, and they drop down to the bottom and take over the lead.
Look a little further back here, and we got some guys back off the pace. It's Eric Ruckel. You got Blackburn in here and Jeremy Osborne. And this group, or Jeremy Osborne actually a ways back. That looks like Hartley, who's already a lap or 2 down or more. So these 3 cars are in a world of hurt here.
Yeah, the best thing that they can do is stay in line, and they should be able to draft back up with these guys too wide. And the good thing is, if something happens in front of them, they've got a little bit of time to react. But they don't want to get too far back.
It almost happened right there. Our leader, the 89 of Gathering, got a little bit loose from the pushing. That brought Tong back to the front. Tong looking strong once again.
Yeah, it looks like when they lost the lead, he kind of ditched the 53 there and kind of went on his own and took the lead back using that momentum on the high side.
You see him always into the wall there. There's wiggling all over the place, and you just can't push these cars too hard or they get sideways. We look 3 wide down into the corner. Oh, up goes a 42 all over the bumper of the 89 of Gathering. That was meta pace there. That was so close.
Yeah, I can't believe how much these cars are moving. Wow, they got to be a handful to drive.
They really are. I mean, from the last time we've seen, and the biggest thing is when you get into the corner, they tend to get a little loose, and you see guys chasing it up the track. It's the only way to not wreck. And if you chase it up the track, unfortunately, there's usually another line of cars there, TJ.
Yeah, and we've seen that. And you got to be ready, I guess, if you're on the high.
And we're wrecking from the lead once again. Yellow. Big wreck, too much push. Around he goes. Trying to see who that was. I believe that was the 89, but I could be mistaken. Seeing as how there is no 89, I probably am.
I believe it's the 83.
The 83 is wrecking now under caution. Wow. Crazy stuff happening here. Let's see if we can get a replay on this. You see later here, and the 53 gets a little loose. He's misaligned, hits him, sends him to the inside wall. Down he comes. Condi and Monahan caught up in it, and it looked like Monahan actually got into him there, TJ. And I mean, just on that alignment, that was never going to be okay to hit him on that side of the bumper.
No, and I think the left rear corner is worse to hit than the right rear corner because it just kind of turns these cars around pretty quick, as we saw there.
And you see a fast repair going on the 83, so Leiter will use that up, and That might be a problem using it this early, lap 19 of 100.
Yeah, that's the thing with having the one faster pair. You surely don't want to have to use it on lap 19. That makes a long rest of the race. You got to really, really be careful.
That brings Briegel back to the front, but he does not pit. Others do. Tong comes in. May comes in. Gathright, Menapace, Monahan. As we bring up our pit board here, you can see everybody coming in.
It's an interesting call by Briegel to stay out there, but I will say that, the first part of the race so far, his car looks a lot more stable than some of these guys I'm seeing out here, so maybe he's feeling like he's in good shape.
Blackburn is in. Schrader's in. I'm not sure Schrader should have come in, seeing as how he might be already. Yeah, he's several laps down at this point. He could be done for the evening.
Yeah, that's unfortunate for him because he had such a good car early on.
Yeah, so unfortunate. Kind of reminds me of the Jets in a way, though. I hate to trash the Jets. They're probably doing a lot better than I think they are. I'm rooting for them, folks. And again, I have to reiterate, I'm a Lions fan, so pick on me if you are willing to. You see Jessica Childs sitting here, 4th position, up 5 spots on the night. Keith Long, winner of the last Superspeedway race, very patient, was at 71, really stole that. Massive wrecking going on in the last corner, and he just came through there and said, how do you do? Thank you very much. I'll take this. And he was your victor. Joshua Neal now up in 2nd. He's up 12 spots on the night. And of course, Briegel out front. He's picked up 5 spots. And looking pretty solid out here, but this pit stop thing can really come into play here as fuel mileage concerns. Eventually it'll come in. I mean, we've had a couple of wrecks here, so they're probably thinking there'll be more. And by the looks of the way these cars are handling, TJ, I tend to agree. I mean, they're just not handling very well.
No, it looks like after you get about 7 or 8 laps on these things, they really start to become a handful. And from that point on, it looks like a lot of these guys are really struggling to hang on. So I think maybe being super patient and taking it really easy might be a good strategy for this race since we've got 79 laps to go.
There's someone after your hurt there. Joshua Gathright comes in for a little top up, and then away he goes. So, man, thinking strategy, even though it might not look like we're going green, you never know, TJ.
Yeah, sometimes, you think that, hey, this thing's got a caution-y look to it, and you end up, everybody's kind of worked the kinks out, and they kind of start taking it easy rather than push things, and then the next thing you know, it's going green the rest of the way. So not a bad move, I don't think, especially if you're in the back. Why not stop in and put some extra gas in that?
Absolutely. And that's the one thing I preach is that, like, you don't even necessarily, if you're at the back, you don't even necessarily have to calculate. It's a no-risk thing. Just come in. I mean, what, are you going to lose a couple of spots on a super speedway? Doesn't even matter. If you're from like 15th back, I'm coming in each and every time, even if it's only for gas. But here we go. Back to green flag action. Briegel and Neal, Long and Carrier. Green is out. Briegel gets a bit of a lead. I don't think he wants that. Guys might get a run on him. We got a blinker back in the pack here, too.
Yeah, he's got a huge jump. If these guys get momentum built up, they're going to fly by him. But it doesn't look like anything's formed up yet, so I think he's going to be okay.
Briegel, Long, and Neal. Joshua Neal, I believe, making his debut here in the number 82. And so far, so good for him, sitting in 3rd. Carrier, who's in an early wreck, back in this thing, now in 4th.
Yeah, these top 4 cars are really hooked up here, kind of putting a gap between themselves and 5th place and beyond.
Jessica Child slides into 5th. Rother starting to work the high side. He's got Tong with him, and we know Tong, he can really push. And the question might be, from what we've seen in these cars, is can you hang on to it while he pushes it?
Yeah, I think given what we've seen so far, I don't know that I would want anybody pushing me for the next 50, 60 laps anyway.
Well, the last race I was involved with, if someone pulls off, that's Ruckel down to the inside. He's trying to fade back, but can't slow down enough. Over the bumps he goes. Wow, dangerous. I think he might lose the draft here. Bit of a mistake from Ruckel.
Yeah, that's a dangerous game when you pull off like that. If you have to get out of the gas too much, you lose so much momentum, you'll lose the draft.
I mean, he's safe, but now he's out of it out of the draft, so very interesting. But, you talk about, like, pulling off like that. TJ, the last super speedway race I was in, I was leading the race and pulled off and went to the back. That's how much I was worried about being wrecked.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, and I've seen a lot of guys do it. My concern would be as the driver is if I don't have to get out of the gas, but just a little bit, just so I can keep the draft.
It's tricky, especially going from, the front half to the back half. You got to let so many cars go, and are they going to move up the track and let you back in? Are you going to have to let off more and more before the corner? Lots of tricky things. But right now, Briegel, Long, and Neal looking good.
Yeah, still Briegel's car looks really, really solid. His car does not look to be moving like a lot of the cars we've seen tonight, so I think he's in good shape, and I think the 71 behind him, he's got a solid car too. He does not look to me like he's moving that much.
Jeremy May looked to the high side but couldn't find any help. Now the 89 of Gathright looks like he's up there, and he's got Condi with him, or Tong, my apologies, Tong with him, and he comes back down. So Tong all alone on the high side.
Yeah, it looks like some guys kind of want to go to the top side, but then nothing forms up, and they give up the ghost.
I think they're just, lap 25 here. Still a lot of laps here at the Super Speedway. Some of these guys realize that, you know what, it's too early to be doing all this, but here we go. Monahan jumps up high. He's going to pick up Tong. These two work well together. They're going to be looking to come to the front.
Yeah, that's just it. Can they get up there and get hooked up and get that momentum built up? It looks like we've got a couple cars jumped up to the high side behind them, so we'll see if those guys can kind of form up and build some momentum.
Yeah, Gathraight's joined in with them. So the 89 also getting a little racy. There's the 4 of Philip Willis. Haven't called on him tonight, but Willis always a contender, so he's putting his nose up here as that high line starts to get formed up. Still Briegel and Long out front.
Now the top side's back to 3 cars because the 4 car bailed out and went down to the bottom.
And that's what happens, guys pick up 1 or 2 spots and say, you know what, that's enough. I'm going to bail on you. I'll see you later. And you get stuck out there. So, but I think Tong and Monahan in particular are committed up here, and they're coming. They're coming in a hurry.
Yeah, even with only 3 cars up there, they've built up some nice momentum.
You see Tong there, such a hard shove. He almost missed the corner, almost getting into the wall. Gets back into it, though. Right back to the bumper he goes, and he's got Monahan to the front. They're going to stay on the high side here.
Yeah, I mean, with the momentum that they're able to carry on the high side, I don't think I would drop down personally. I'd stay up there, but I'm not driving their race cars, so...
No, and they just left old Gathright out, hung out to dry. Gathright immediately drops to the bottom, and that was with Carrier was just coming along with Willis. So Carrier and Willis would look to get hooked up. No, Carrier drops down.
Yeah, that seems like when those guys can make that break, they all drop to the bottom, and then the guys that are hung out either fade or they find a hole to jump into.
So lap 28 at 100. Ooh, a little wiggling back in 3rd place there. That looked like Briegel getting a little loose.
Yep, we're 8 laps into this run essentially from when we got green. So now we're starting to see these cars really start to move around and be a handful.
Yeah, it doesn't take much. 8, 10 laps, and these tires are seemingly falling off on these. They're a little bit different from my perspective. I don't put a lot of time in these next-gen cars, but they seem to really have some different aero packages on these things.
Yeah, between the aero and the way that rear independent suspension works, I think it's way more tuning intensive, let's say, to keep these cars under you.
So Monahan and Tong still out front. Everybody's single file right now. Let's look in on our pit board and see who's pitted and who hasn't. So looks like Childs has not pitted. Neal has not pitted. Long and Briegel have not pitted. TJ, they're going to have to pit here soon.
Yeah, and that's the thing. If this thing keeps going green like it is, these guys are not going to be able to go a whole lot longer, and they're going to need fuel.
Yeah, they're going to need fuel. This is bad news for them. I don't see why they wouldn't have pitted on one of these stops, but here on lap 30, you got to think super speedway, usually around 35 laps, a couple of cautions. I mean, they can't do much more than 5 or 10 laps here, TJ.
Yeah, that's what I would be thinking, somewhere in that neighborhood of time.
Oh, and way down the track.
Loop.
I don't know if that was Child. Oh, and they're wrecking the 21. Cody McRae into the wall. He's going backwards now, looking to loop that thing around. And he's going to be all right. So Cody McRae there.
Looked like he did not know that car was on his outside when he tried to pull up a little bit into the higher lane. But it looked like his car was kind of like getting maybe loose, and he was kind of chasing it around a bit.
Whoa, the 03 just came out of nowhere, TJ. So there's something else going on that we're missing. Go a little further back, you can see what I believe, is that Childs? Yes, Childs gets a little bit loose on the high side up in front and comes way down the track. The 21 tries to evade, goes up a bit. The 03's got all kinds of momentum, and when McRae comes back up, he doesn't even know he's there. It's over.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the 03 car of Hartley, I'm sure he was completely shocked when the 21 kind of cut up across his nose, but I don't think he knew he was there. That's what it looked like to me.
The speed difference was so much that I think he had no idea that he was there at that point.
Yeah, because 03 had a lot of momentum, and he was really coming at a pretty higher rate of speed, and I just don't think that the 21 realized that he would get there that quick.
You know, we talked about Ruckle dropping off the pack and losing the draft. You're looking pretty smart right now, TJ.
Yeah, I mean, we were questioning that, but it looks like it's going to work out good for those guys.
Up front, still Monahan, Tong, and Briegel. Pit stops are imminent. You've got to think that those guys who haven't pitted are coming in this time by.
I know I would be. Yes, there they are.
Yeah, you see them all coming in now. Looking like a clean entrance for everybody.
The amount of tires that they got, I would go ahead and throw 4 on that thing if it was me, but I'm not them, so.
Yeah, it looks like tires going on for the most part.
Yeah, Long's getting 4, the 82's getting 4, so. And it looks like Briegel got 4.
Still see that jet car down there. So unfortunate for Schroeder. Very sad to see him still on pit road. Here comes Ruckle. McRae still sitting there. He was pretty heavily damaged. Looks like not using a fast repair, or doesn't have one, but he's getting some work done, no doubt.
Yeah, that would be a shame to be out of your fast repair already, but he may be thinking I can get this fixed and not lose too much more and save it, for later in the race. I don't know.
So let's actually look and see who did not come in here. So up front, Monahan Tong, Leader, Willis, Menapace, and Condi all not pitting. I'm super perplexed by that, TJ. What do you think about these calls? Are these guys thinking a little outside of the box? Are they smarter than I'm making them sound? Or I like, to me, it's just an obvious mistake. 13 laps less fuel in the car than everybody else.
Well, we kind of second guessed Briegel and Long, staying out before, and it worked out for them. So maybe these guys are a little smarter than we are.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. I mean, if I want to state that not only are we wrong sometimes, we're wrong most of the time in the booth, but from what I can see, it's a mistake to be not getting in gas. You would still be in the same position. You'd be the leaders coming in, you'd be the leaders coming out. You just have 13 more laps worth of gas and fresher tires. So I think it's a mistake, but we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, because you make a good point, because if those guys behind them that hadn't stopped yet are going to stop and probably take tires. So if you come in for just fuel, you're going to beat them back out and not really lose any track position. So, but we aren't driving their race cars.
That's for sure. And there could be a tire limit here. I'm not too sure about that. I don't think there is, but
according to my information, they got 5 sets for the race, so that's plenty of tires to change them every so often, I would think. But
okay, well, 5. I mean, yeah, that's plenty of tires, and yeah, don't know. We'll have to wait and see how it plays out. I mean, if there's more cautions, and with all these cars out here, you got to think there's going to be. These things are just too ill handling, TJ. You just can't run too long with pushing without a wreck. And I think they're probably right to think there'll be another one.
And the only thing I'm thinking about that is tires could be really important here. And these guys are saving those tires for the end if we get, 5-10 laps and a caution, 5-10 laps and a caution. They're going to have extra sets of tires to be able to play with.
It might be correct. Green flag drops. Monahan and Tong, Leader and Willis, Menapace and Condi, your top 6.
Pretty smooth, even restart this time. Probably the most even one since the initial start.
You see back here, Jessica Childs look like not really getting going, maybe missing a shift. A group of 4 cars in a world of trouble back here, losing the draft. Back up front, Monahan still leading, and he's got Leader behind him with Tong on the outside.
Yeah, that group of 4, I don't know if somebody missed a shift or not, but they are definitely dropping off.
Yeah, something happened there, and they're having a hard time even getting up to speed. I don't know if someone's down on power or what's going on. And Ruckel riding the wall there, so Ruckel having some problems at the back of this pack.
Yeah, it kind of looks like these cars aren't responsive to steering sometimes on that high side. Like almost they just want to push right up to the wall. Just no front tire grip.
Yeah, I think that's the case for sure, and I think they don't want to steer it too hard either because it'll break loose on you, TJ. So you have a timid driver with a car that's not responding that great. It's just going to cause you to push up to that wall.
Yeah, I'm glad I'm not driving them because they really look like they're a handful.
Yeah, I'm not going to comment on the next-gen cars and what I may or may not think of them, except for to say they look beautiful, TJ.
Yeah, they got a good look to them, but they look like they're a little bit of a handful after so many laps. But, hopefully as this race goes on, we get some more rubber on the track. It might help the handling on these cars.
These guys up front and the high side trying to get it working. Willis pushing Tong. Someone coming off a pit road there. And that's Childs. So Childs came in under green flag after not being able to get that car up to speed. Jessica Childs in all kinds of problems right now.
Yeah, I kind of wonder if maybe she's got some kind of an issue there with the engine or something, and it's just not up to power wise.
Ooh, and Long pushes up the track almost into Tong. So Long and Tong almost coming together.
Yeah, and the 71 has been like one of the better handling cars from observing up here in the booth, and it's kind of surprising to see he's going to take off the track on him.
So guys who look good is still Monahan, but remember, I believe they wrecked, did they not, at one point?
Yes, I believe they were in a wreck.
So, you know, they're still got to be cautious up here. Lighter here is pushing pretty good here in the 83. That Red Bull machine looking sharp out here. He's in his debut as far as I know. So he'd be looking to put on a good show up on the high side. Long all of a sudden up there. Someone dropping down. Long thought about it. He's back up. Not sure where he wants to be right now.
Yeah, it looked like he was looking for a hole to get back down, and there was no hole there, so he's just going to have to get up there and push that 42.
Yeah, that's Briegel in the 87 up there right now. So Briegel rocking the high side, looking to make his way back to the front. Or I got the wrong car. You're right, the 40, my bad. That's Kevin Menepace out there in the Hardee's machine. So he's changed paint on me. I believe you had the WCW car last week. Kevin Menepace looking for the lead, and he's going to take it with the help of Keith Long.
Yeah, they've really got the high side working now, and you can see what momentum these guys have built up. It's going to be interesting. Will they stay up, or will they drop down as soon as they can?
Looks like he was thinking of dropping down, didn't want to. There goes the 5 of Nicholas Tong to the bottom, so he's going to take that spot.
And every time we've seen Tong have that opportunity, he's gone back to the bottom. So I'm kind of wondering if maybe his car, he feels like it works better on the bottom.
I think it might be more about Monahan. He wants to be hooked up with Monahan.
Yeah, that could be. If you get somebody you're comfortable with, like we talked about, you know, it makes a big difference.
It definitely does. I mean, it's where teammates or guys you practiced with. I mean, you got to have trust at a track like this.
Yeah, especially tonight, you know, with the cars moving around like I've seen so far. So, yeah, I would definitely want to be, you know, right around somebody that I trust, you know. Like, they just make your race. You wouldn't have that concern with who's behind you, let's put it that way.
So it'd be interesting, TJ, if we could get these things to go a little bit of green here. It'd be super interesting to see how this plays out with these guys having to pit on different sequences of laps. I mean, that's really going to switch things up. Only getting to a green flag run will tell us what happens.
Yeah, because if we get a long green flag run and we get this broken up a little bit by different pit sequences, it could really shake up the complexion of this race.
Hop on board here with Daniel Monahan as he jumps to the high side. There goes Tong right in front of him. So these two clearly seem to be working together. They're going to try and go to the lead here on the outside. They got the 687 of Briegel behind them. So that line looking strong. And Tong almost looks like he doesn't even need help.
He looks like he has a really strong car with the two behind him. Those guys, we know have strong cars. So be interesting to see what these guys can do hooked up.
With all this going on, Ruckel has fallen off this group again. So Ruckel back in trouble.
Or maybe he'll be out of trouble if it gets wild again. You never know.
Well, that's another way of looking at it for sure, and maybe that's what he's thinking. Tong wiggling down the track a bit, and he'll leave Monahan, so interesting. Looked like he kept wanting to work with him, but I think more accurately, or maybe he wants Monahan in front of him. I'm not too sure. As it looked like maybe he was backing out there to let Monahan drop down in front of him.
Yeah, that very well could be a strategy play right there. He just wants to be behind Monahan there so he can push him.
Well, he's a hell of a pusher, I'll tell you that. I mean, Tong is probably the best pusher out here, but best pusher always means most aggressive pusher, so I don't know how that plays out in these cars.
Yeah, I don't know how aggressively. I want somebody pushing me, but so far these guys seem to be leaving a little bit more space than they were early on. You know, kind of using that bubble instead of the bumper.
You see Willis trying to make a move as they go 3 wide. No. Yes, it looks like they're going to get down. So Willis, along with Leiter, do make their way down to the bottom.
Yeah, that was some good heads-up driving right there by Moynihan, because if he'd have pushed that issue, we'd have had a big wreck.
Briegel almost got wrecked there too, as these cars starting to move around again, right around that 8 or 10 laps again, TJ. That seems like that's where these cars start to falter a little bit.
Yeah, that seems to be the threshold. I kind of wonder if these guys can hang on and we can get about 5 or 10 more laps if they're going to kind of, you know, get better and kind of come back to them. It's just a stage that they go through where they get really kind of squirrely.
Yeah, well, that's a great point. I mean, talk a little bit about that, TJ. Different cars, different tracks. You can go from like a tight car to a loose car back to a tight car, or various iterations. They can switch during a run.
Oh, absolutely. Sometimes you think, oh my God, my car is falling off a cliff here. I'm in big trouble. And it comes back to you and it starts running faster than it did on the onset. So that could be the case here too. I just think we need some more laps on to be able to tell, you know, whose cars are set up to run longer than other cars. So we're just going to have to see how it plays out, if we can make it another 5 or 10 laps to see how it changes.
So Briegel shoots to the lead and then shoots up the track. And that's Keith Long right behind him there. So we keep mixing up here. There's no... And we've seen this in the first race. Guys who we thought were super fast, able to break away from the pack even, TJ. And then later, it was different guys able to do it. So it seems to be a product of the car itself, rather than a particular guy's car setup or driving ability. Oh no! Tongs into the side of Long. Down he comes. Massive wreck. Monahan involved. Cars smoking everywhere. There goes Keith Long back to the wall. Wow.
That was big.
That was big indeed. Let's get a replay.
Yeah, it looks like that 5 car just got a wiggle, and he was chasing it, trying to catch it, and right up into Long in the 71.
It looked like he tried to follow the guy in front of him.
Yeah, maybe he was trying to follow the 87 up to the high side, and there just was no room there.
Yeah, I'm going to rewind this here, and we'll get back to it. It looked like, yeah, it was Briegel that he was following. They're both riding on the bottom. Briegel fades up the track, and it looks like Tong says, I'm coming with you. And Long goes, no, I'm here. Don't do that. Of course, the 89 of Gathright gets collected, and several other cars get some damage out of that.
And you know, Dean, your driver just as well as I am, actually a better one, but if you're watching that car in front of you and he changes lanes, sometimes you're not thinking, you're just following his car, and you just end up going right where he goes.
You do. And as super speedways in particular, as you see Monahan on pit road here, it's so tricky. You know, you want to get every ounce of draft you can do, and sometimes it can almost be boring out here. You can lose your focus completely just for a half lap, and when you're running nose to tail, side by side, you can't afford to do that.
No, you know, like you said, you know, you're out here, you're logging laps, you're following somebody that you want to follow, and you're just following him, and if his car moves, you don't even think about it, and you just follow him right up into what we saw there.
So lots of guys are in. Unbelievably, Leader doesn't pit. He pitted on lap 18. Menapace does not pit. He pitted on lap 19. And other guys who pitted on lap 32 don't pit. I can't explain it, TJ. I mean, again, I've done this in the booth more often where I say, oh, I don't know what's going on. I can't explain. They do explain it to me after. And I guess it makes sense most of the time, but I am totally perplexed by this. Why? Not necessarily Briegel, who pitted on 32, but even him. But Matthew Leader, who's in the 83, he pitted on lap 18, TJ. Why is he not on pit road?
Yeah, you would think if he pitted on 18, it's lap 48 now, would have been 47 when he went by. I would have stopped and at least got fuel, but
I mean, he's
no.
got to be close to being out.
Well, he's got to be better than halfway through a fuel run.
Way more than that. I mean, you're talking about 30 laps. I mean, I can't imagine he can do more than 40.
I mean, we've had some caution laps, but he's not going to be running too many green flag laps, and he's going to have to pit for fuel, I think.
This is really puzzling, and eventually someone's going to get bit hard by this staying out stuff. And I think Leader and Menapace have made big mistakes here. But again, folks, not only can I be wrong, usually am. So we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, I would be more concerned with Leader being, as many laps as he's got on his car. He doesn't have a whole lot of fuel to play with here, and he's going to be down pit road.
Yeah,
and I would not want to have to be the guy pitting by myself, and everybody's, in still green flag conditions.
Yeah, Menapace in the same situation. I mean, sitting in fifth, he pitted 1 lap after Leader did on lap 19, so... I have no idea why they're not in. We're talking about 30 laps ago. Very shocking. I mean, you don't even have to take tires if it's about tires, TJ. You just click them off.
Yeah, I mean, you could always just put fuel in. Very, very surprising, but again, different perspective up here in the booth than down there behind the wheel. So
yes,
we'll just have to see how it plays out.
Indeed. Monahan on pit road. And it might be night over for Monahan. Try and get a look in on him. Oh, he's getting service, so not over for Monahan yet, but he's going to be several laps down in a world of hurt here. Up front, it's Leader and Briegel, Carrier and Long, Willis and Menapace, Condi and Osborne, Ruckel into 9th with Rother now in 10th.
Well, we've seen this race twist and turn so far, so we're just going to have to see how it twists and turns now.
So many twists and turns, so interesting. Briegel with a great start, but does he even want that start to get out there like that? I don't know.
Interesting to see him swing up to the high side as soon as he crossed the start-finish line.
See Carrier with a big run, swoops down to the low side. Wow, is Carrier carrying some speed?
He's got no help, though, so I don't see him going anywhere with it.
Long pulls off the track. He's looking to go to the back. He's seen enough. He may be going too far back, TJ.
Yeah, he may be going too far back. Up front, Willis starting to show some muscle here as he drops down to the bottom side.
Yeah, don't sleep on Philip Willis. He can do some damage up there. Someone else wiggles their way out of line. Oh, they're wrecking! That's Ruckel.
Yellow.
Ruckel involved. Someone come up and cleaned them out. So we'll get another opportunity here for someone to come up and make their pit stop. So we're not going to find out whether that was a mistake or not. Let's look at this replay. You see Ruckel down low here. He's riding around. Oh, and he just inches up on the car in front of him. That's
that was
Rother.
A weird-looking wreck.
Yeah, he just inched up on Rother and didn't really get, clear of him. It was really kind of a strange momentum thing there. You see, Rother probably checks up a little bit here. Ruckel comes up and just gets on that left side of him, and it's just not clear enough.
I think they both kind of got a little spooked by the 24 car being down on the apron and then coming back up on the track, and I think they were both trying to give him room, and they both tried to give him room, taking up the same spot.
So Monahan, he's still in. So we're looking at, in particular, Leader and Menapace and whether they're going to pit here as they wait for that pace car to come up and catch up.
I would think that they're going to pit, but I've been wrong before, so I'm not going to say they are. But it
was only a lap ago that there was, a caution. So why would they come in now and not then? I don't. But here they come.
And interesting, Willis is coming in with them.
So to me, this is a big bonus for these guys. They were caught napping, in my opinion, and they've got a chance to correct that error, and they've done it. Now they'd be in a better spot had they pitted last time, but they'll be fine. As long as they're in the pack, they got the speed to catch up. You got
They
Blackburn in as well, and others.
The only other thing I can think of is they were waiting until after lap 50 so that they could get into a fuel window of maybe one more stop.
It's possible. I mean, like you say, we don't have all the particulars, but generally speaking, on the super speedway. Now, I'm not familiar with the next gen car so much, but in other vehicles, NASCAR vehicles, you're looking at about 33 laps, TJ. I mean, they had 30 laps on that car and still didn't pit. So interesting to say the least, from my perspective.
Yeah, I kind of wonder what the fuel range is on these. I don't have enough experience in them to know how much, further or less that they can go than the Xfinity car, but I would say they got to be somewhere similar.
You would think. There's got to be. I mean, they must be able to go further because, just listening to myself, like, it just can't be that way. These guys know what they're doing. Trying to make it sound like they don't is a mistake. They know how to race. They know what they're doing. And to think that they would make that kind of mistake, like stay out under caution to just run 3 laps under green and then pit with, I just don't see it. So maybe they can do 45 or 50 in these cars. Hard to say.
Yeah, it might be. And the other thing is, with these cars in open setup, you've got a lot more gear ratios that you can adjust that you can't on the truck or the Xfinity cars. So maybe some of these guys got a bit taller gear and they can really get some good fuel mileage.
See Blackburn. We haven't covered too much on Blackburn. He's been hanging in there. Come pits from 13th.
Yeah, and as we've seen, you could be running 13th, 14th, 15th. You're not really out of this by any means. So these guys in the back are maybe just biding their time because we're barely past halfway. So they've got a lot of time to work.
Yeah, definitely got a lot of time. So it's Briegel. Condi now in first or second. He'll start on the front of the outside line. You got Carrier and Tong in row 2. Osborne and Neal in row 3. McRae and Childs in row 4. Gathright and Willis round out the top 10.
Going to be interesting to watch Briegel on this restart because we'll see who he wants to be in front of, if he wants to stay on the bottom or if he wants to jump back up to the high side like he did last time.
Yeah, Briegel's been all over the front, I know Condi's got the speed and Tong's got speed. Carrier. I mean, all these top 4 are all hooked up and they've done well in the past. Some of the unknowns are like Neal and Osborne in row 3. I think this is their first race for the both of them. Could be mistaken. A pace car off. We're going to find out now as they go green flag racing one more time in the Extreme Power League. Briegel, another jump. He's got Condi looking to hook up with him.
Yeah, just like last time, he went right up to the high side.
Yeah, it's interesting. Trying to build some momentum, perhaps. And you can see it's working for him.
I'm kind of wondering if maybe his car works better up there. He just likes being up on top rather than the bottom.
You see Carrier. What a run Carrier gets right to the bumper of Briegel. So Carrier working that high side really well.
Yeah, these 3 have really got hooked up. Up, and there goes the 7 to the bottom.
Yeah,
5's going to follow him. No, 5 goes back to the top.
Very interesting. Who's working together, who isn't. And Carrier blinks out. So maybe that's part of why they don't want to push him. Carrier, a little blinky there. Internet connection issues, and he's going to fall back on the inside.
Yeah, and sometimes that will make you not want to be like in front of that car or necessarily around that car if he's got a little bit of a blinking problem because it's not a consistent push and you never know when he's going to blink you or not.
Yeah, I mean, I've had a blinking car in front of me, and the next thing you know, I'm in his cockpit. I don't know how that works, but it has happened.
Yeah, that's the most extreme. But when his car blinks out, you kind of lose that push that he was giving you until he comes back. So sometimes that really breaks up the momentum.
See, back in the pack, some wiggles. Look like Osborne and Willis back there wiggling around a little bit. These cars are a handful. Out front, though, it's Tong doing his thing, pushing Briegel. Briegel leading.
Looks like we got more cars up on the high side than the bottom, but as I say that, a bunch of them drop down, so.
Yeah, very interesting. We're seeing a lot more on the high than the low, as it looks like. Is that Childs dropping down to the inside? So Jessica Childs up in third position now, fading a little bit after that drop down.
But it looks like whatever the problem with that car was earlier, it's fixed, because it looks definitely up to speed now.
Yeah, it really does. Everything looking fine. But that high line's still rocking. Here comes Gathright joining in. He's pushing Keith Long there in the 71.
Didn't take the 71 very long to work his way back to the front, did it?
No, it did not. And like I said, he won the first race at Dega. So the 71 looks to be, liking these super speedway actions so far.
Yeah, he's definitely got a good car. He's just got to keep it out of trouble the rest of the way.
We look in on Joshua Neal here. Actually, let's hop on board with Joshua Neal. You see what he's dealing with here. You can see him riding around behind Jessica Childs here on the outside. That's the 89. That's Gathright up there on the high side. And you see just a little push up there in the middle. And of course, Jessica's car, you can see the message there in memory of Hannah and Cash. So, of course, that's a great message there. And I imagine she's racing with a heavy heart or trying to put a good show on in memory of them.
Yeah, I'm noticing that there's a lot of momentum. You really close up on the car in front of you really fast, and that's something to really keep in the bottom of your mind of, when do I need to start backing off as I'm creeping in on that car in front of me so that you don't make contact.
Yeah, pull up the dashboard here and just look at the miles per hour. So we're dropping down to, the mid 180s, and then we're coming out of the corner here. We start picking up and heading towards 190 plus, and you can just see that, jumping all around are these cars. You see it jump to 193. It just doesn't seem to be, even speed-wise, TJ, it doesn't seem to be stable.
No, I think, the more these cars are moving around, the more we see that fluctuation in speed. But the thing about these cars is they keep up so much speed through the center of the corner. Unlike some of the other cars, they kind of drop off in the center and build up on the straightaway. These cars seem to keep more of a consistent speed all the way around the track.
See Keith Long going around up on the high side with Christopher Blackburn. And you got the high side all hooked up here. Down low, that looks like Childs trying to slip in front. Oh, that was dangerous.
Yeah, sometimes you think you got more of a gap than you end up actually having, and it gets to be quite the nail biter.
So Briegel still leading, and we're starting to see a little breakaway for him in here. I don't think they can get away, but they're trying.
They're definitely trying, and another car that looks really good tonight is Willis. He's back up to the front again.
Yeah, Willis, Willis is always around. He's hanging around the front at any track that we go to, so expect him to be there in the end. And they drop to the bottom. That's Gathright right in front of them.
And Willis is another car that I've looked at here and there, and his car looks pretty stable under him.
It does. I mean, I've seen him move around a little bit, but only when he's back in the pack. Kind of, nothing to worry about. Maybe just taking it easy with the hands and everything. From driving these things, TJ, you get clinching that wheel and you're doing 100 laps on the super speedway, boy, you can get a sore wrist, sore hand. You got to relax once in a while.
Absolutely, because you can get overtensed on, just like you said, with your hands on the wheel and stuff, and you get a hand cramp, your foot can get cramped. It's definitely something you got to be cognizant of.
So Briegel, really, him and Tom have been putting on a bit of a show up at the front here. Really, kind of showing that they want to be the favorites here. And, it's early, lap 62 of 100. I mean, not super early, but anything could happen. But they got to be the early favorites, TJ.
I just like what they've done all night, especially the 87. He really looks like he's got a super fast car, and it really seems to be under him even better than the 5. And the 5's got a super fast car, but his does seem to move around a bit more than the 87.
Carrier trying to make a move, but Carrier, I'm telling you, he's got no friends out here. As everybody drifts up the track there, almost getting into the wall was Menapace and others. I think Condi might have been up there, I'm not sure. But now, Carrier, he drops to the bottom, and this happened to him several times. He goes straight to the back, and then he has to work his way back to where he goes. He just can't find anybody to work with him. I wonder, is this just, connection issues? I think it is, TJ. You guys are like, your connection is not solid. I'm not working with you.
Yeah, I would say that that's probably what this is, because, a good fast car, no matter who it is, you're going to use them to help you if you can. But if you see a connection issue, it makes you much less likely to want to follow them or even be in front of them. So that's probably what we're seeing with that deal.
So everything getting sorted out. And, this is a real bonus for those guys who were in that pit situation, that they got that second caution to get in there and pit, because they would have already had to pit under green, TJ.
Yeah, they really got saved by that caution, because they would have had to pit a number of laps ago, and they would have had to done it by themselves, and it really probably would have put them behind the 8 ball for sure.
Well, looking at our pit board, so you got Briegel on lap 32, Tong on 47, and then back to Carrier on 32. So now it's Briegel and Carrier in the hot seat.
Yeah, because you wonder how much longer they can go, or are they going to go if they think this thing has got a really big green field to it. But if they're the only two that pit, they're going to be in a world of trouble.
Well, I was just reevaluating that. With only 35 to go, TJ, they're probably going to be all right. Maybe that's what they're thinking. They only need to do a couple more laps, and they'll be fine to come in and take their last pit stop. So not so bad for them. And maybe that's the case earlier on with the other guys too. Like you said, they thought they could make it to halfway, to one more stop, and that's all they needed.
Yeah, they're going to be okay fuel-wise if they can make it past, to get to that one stop, which it looks like they can. But if they have to pit by themselves and the other guys are going to go a little bit longer, they're going to lose a lot of track position. But as good as their cars are, I would not be surprised if we don't see other guys go there.
So we look back now to group number 2. We see Joshua Neal here leading this group. Now they are in trouble, TJ. I mean, they are 5 seconds off. We'll see if we can get a time delta on them. And we'll go up to Willis to get that corrected. So you can see 3.4 seconds from the back of the pack back to Joshua Neal. So I mean, I don't know if it's closing down. It looks like it's opening up here.
Yeah, and I think with only 3 cars, and they are not running nose to tail, they're going to keep losing a lot of time to that lead pack. So if we don't have a caution, I think they're going to be in trouble.
Yeah, I think they're in a lot of trouble here. Briegel still out front. Condi's still pushing them. These two have been really doing a great job. They got to start thinking about, are they going to pit together or not? Because Briegel's got to come in before Tong does.
Yeah, and we've seen where there's been guys trying to form that bottom lineup, and Tong has not tried to go to the bottom, so he looks like he's very content to ride and push the 87 here on the high side.
Yeah, Condi and Willis just kind of riding around. And of course, down on the bottom, it's Carrier all alone again. Nobody will go down there with them.
He's very much an island out here tonight, so I haven't seen his car jumping like it was before, though, so maybe as this race goes on and we get closer to the end, if his connection stays solid, he may get some help.
Well, could this be like maybe we're overstating that connection issue? Maybe it's, I mean, it looks like these guys are content on the high side. Nobody wants to run down on the bottom, TJ.
Yeah, because we don't really have, since this lead group has kind of went to the high side and kind of broken away from the second pack, they haven't made any moves to go to the bottom. They've seemed very content to ride that upper line.
We're coming down to 30 to go here in the Extreme Power League Daytona 250. As it looks like Ruckel's in the pits, and Ruckel in a world of hurt here, a couple laps down, and it's getting worse. As you see a plane landing in the background there.
And Tong just dropped to the bottom side, and he gave up about 3 spots doing that.
Very interesting what's happened here is they all kind of went to the bottom. Are they coming in? Are they setting it up for a pit stop? Not now, but are they getting ready?
I think they are, because everybody that was running the top has now moved down to the bottom here in that front group, with the exception of the 83 car.
Yeah, I thought for a minute that was Carrier. He's like, if you're going to the bottom, I'm going to the high side. But no, that's Leader up there. Leader is took to the high side all alone, going, come on, guys. And he's in the same spot as Carrier was. Nobody wants to work with him. They're all staying in line.
Well, at least Carrier is happy now, because it looked like he wanted to run the bottom. So he's kind of getting his wish. Everybody else has moved to the bottom with him.
Yeah, absolutely. It's Briegel and Cathright. You got Long and Tong, and then Willis and Carrier. And these guys are really, your pit window is open here. And what do you like to do here, TJ? Do you like to run down the fuel as much as possible, or you want to get in kind of like at that, the first opportunity during the pit window?
Well, it depends on how your race is looking. If it's looking like it's been green and it's going to stay green, then a lot of times I like to get on first, and that way you got your pit stop done. If the big pack comes in, a lap or two later and causes a wreck, you're sitting pretty. With this race, we've seen some cautions early on, and now we've got a long green flag run. I think I would run this as long as I could.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I mean, for me, it's about how much fuel do I need? How much fuel can I run down? And if I need less than 8 gallons of gas, that's where I want to be, because in my mind, that's like 1 can of gas. You can get away with like a 6-second pit stop or a 7-second stop versus the 11 or 13-second stop for 2 cans of fuel. So that's where my mind's usually at. But we'll see what these guys choose to do. 28 to go here at the line. Briegel, Gathright, Long and Tong, Willis and Carrier.
Yeah, and the other thing too is, are they gonna need tires or want tires or just fuel? Because that dictates too, how much you want to run this and how much you don't. If tires are not an issue, then it just becomes a fuel issue, and that's your only real concern.
Yeah, it's a great point. I mean, of course, you got to be in sync. I always say when you're pitting with a group of guys, you're only as good as your worst guy. So let's be in sync. If we're taking tires, fine. If we're not, then let's all do that. But you got to be all together on what you're doing. As Willis moves to the high side.
Yeah, because you want to go in as a group and come out in line as a group, because that's the way that you're going to keep the most time and make the most time.
So this group broken away. It goes back to, you got Menapace and Condi are in here. Leaders at the rear of this group, and it's 8 seconds back to this group of Neal, Blackburn, Childs, and McRae. But up front, we stay with them, I believe.
And there's some pitting. Looks like 3 cars pitting.
Yep, Briegel in, Long and Carrier with him, but Briegel smoked him. He's beating them into pit road. So, I mean, like I said, you're only as good as your worst guy. So hopefully Briegel did not speed. He's going to need some help, and he's throwing tires on. Very interesting. Carrier, we'll get a look at him. I'm not seeing tires go on Carrier's car. How about Long? Long is getting tires. So interesting decisions here on pit road. Briegel coming out all alone. Here comes Carrier, and here comes Long. So Carrier didn't get tires, but was in there a long time, TJ. Very interesting pit stops. We've got more pit stops, as it looks like Childs is in from that second group. Our lead group, though, continues around the track.
Looks like Childs is coming by himself.
Well, it looks like Briegel coming out by himself, Carrier and Long kind of together. So Briegel, he might as well just let off the gas and let these guys catch him, because they're going to catch him eventually. But here we go. Well, he might latch onto this group of Gathright, Tong, Willis, Menapace, all these guys. So Briegel's going to try and get into this draft.
Yeah, that's the best thing he can do at this point.
Well, actually, they're catching the other two that were behind them. So that's Carrier and Long. So very interesting here what's happened. We'll see what kind of problems Briegel's in as this whole group comes up on him. So all that he gained on pit road, like I said, you're only as good as your weakest car. It's about to evaporate. And these guys are all going to catch him. And will they just drive right around him, TJ?
I suspect that they will, because he's one car by himself. The two cars that they caught before him were drafting together, so they're holding a bit better speed than Briegel will be on his own. So these guys are probably going to just drive right by him, unless they pit first.
And it looks like some of these guys, Menapace, falling off a little bit here as they got a little loose. They're not in too bad a shape, but everybody's staying out still. But can Menapace and them stay up here? We've got a bit of a mix in this front group. These are not all lead cab cars. The front two have pitted. So that's going to be Keith Long and Carrier. And these two are catching. That is Briegel. Briegel, you can see now, being run down. And all that lead that he had evaporating. And not only is it going to evaporate, I imagine this group's going to drive right around him if they can.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they do when they catch him, because they're going to have a lot more momentum. Are they going to stay with him or go around him? And it looks like they're going to stay with him.
Interesting. So, yeah, interesting choice. They check up a little bit and stay with him. And those three have all pitted, and they're hooked up nose to tail at the front of this group. Now, Briegel, would have liked to have that huge advantage he did, but not gonna. But tires, are they that important, TJ? These three look that much faster than the rest of them.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that, because it looks like they're starting to drive away.
Yeah, they're driving away. We have others that are having problems. Menapace and that group, they're back a little further. So all kinds of different things going on. Your race leader right now, Joshua Gathright, here in the 89, but he, with 23 to go, most certainly has to pit, I would think, but I've been wrong too many times. And here he comes. So he's coming in, and Tong, it looks like, coming with them. Tong will stay high. Willis coming with them. Behind them, you got Menapace and Condi, and they're trying to make up some ground, not able to do it. We'll see if these guys get tires or not.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what these three cars, where they come out on the racetrack, and compare it to the ones that have already pitted.
So Gathright in. Willis through his stall. That'll be costly for Willis. Down goes Gathright. He's away, and he's by himself. No, there's Tong. So him and Tong come out together. That's of the utmost importance. You got to have at least one. You'd like to have more. Menapace, who was off the pack a little bit, along with Willis, who slid through his stall, will look to try to join in. Condi kind of slips back. He could be in trouble. Race leader coming in. Matthew Leader in the 83 coming in all alone. And we'll see how that plays out. It can work sometimes, others not so much. New race leader, Joshua Neal, along with Blackburn. Let's take a look in on our board here and see when they last pitted. So Neal on 47, Blackburn on 52. Leader's in, and he's coming off of pit road. So these two most certainly have to pit still.
Yeah, I would think that they still have to pit, but I have been wrong before, but I don't see how they can make it.
And let's get a quick look in on Osborne and see his situation. Osborne pitted on 47. He's going to have to pit as well.
Yeah, it looks like they're just trying to run the fuel down, and maybe they're just going to go with fuel only.
So when this all shakes out, it's going to be Tong and Gathright. Really, your two leaders. Behind them, it's Willis all alone. I mean, he's not going to be able to catch him. Then it's Briegel, Carrier, and the group. We're on 20 to go. Can anybody run down Tong and Gathright? Or will a caution come out and bring these guys all back together and shake this whole thing up? I mean, that's what Neal, Blackburn, and Osborne want. They want a caution. They want it now, TJ.
Yeah, they really would benefit from a caution, and they'd love to see one. The thing about the second pack trying to catch up to Tong and Gathright, I don't know if they're going to have enough time to catch them or not. The only benefit they've got is that as they're catching cars like they're going to catch Willis, that adds more cars to their line of cars, and they're going to be able to generate more speed that way, but we'll see if it's going to benefit them enough where they can catch those two leaders.
You see Briegel here to Gathright, and they're losing mammoth amounts of time. I mean, they're gaining a lot of time, actually. So they're gaining 2 seconds that lap. Yeah, and they continue to gain, so they're coming in a hurry. So Briegel, Carrier, you got Keith Long and Condi. You're all going to run them down if those front two don't get more hooked up. You can see that Gathright just not pushing the way, like, say, Tong would be. Tong would be all over his bumper.
Yeah, they've really got to get nose to tail here if they're going to have any hope of keeping the leaders back. But I don't think even if they get hooked up at this point, it's going to be enough. It's just going to be interesting to see where on the racetrack do they catch them, because you know as well as I do, there's places you would like to catch them, and there's places you don't want to catch them.
Absolutely. Going to be super important, but it is leveling off here all of a sudden at about 4.3 seconds and starts to click down again. So that group is coming. Briegel going to catch these guys with 18 to go. I'd say we're about 8 or 10 laps from them getting back up there. If that, TJ, they're picking off a second a lap right now.
Yeah, they're really closing in. The interesting thing here is, are we incorrect, and do the 82 of Neal and the 24 of Blackburn have to pit or not?
And Osborne. I mean, of course we could be incorrect. I don't think we are. I think they most certainly have to pit. There's no way they can run 50-plus laps on the super speedway, even in these next-gen cars. But, again, been wrong too many times. It's a possibility. Neal, Blackburn, and Osborne. Osborne by himself, and he's got the 53 of Monahan. With the Monahan, he's out of this for all intents and purposes. But the other battle still, Tong and Gathright, now only 2.76 seconds back to Justin Briegel and Dylan Carrier.
Yeah, they can clearly see those two cars in front of them now, so that really gives you a good object to shoot for. The thing is, the four cars there have to stay nose to tail and tucked up in line. As we see the fourth car in that line, I can't see
that's Condi.
Condi's fallen off, and that's not going to help them at all.
Well, it's not. He might not be able to suck up without help behind him. Sometimes the last car, depending on the build, has a little problem, but the most important thing is that Carrier, if you look at Carrier getting right up on the 87 Briegel, 87 of Briegel, at least at times, and that is propelling them up here. They're there now, and here comes Neal and Blackburn into pit road. So much for that. Those guys are in. That's going to hand it over to Osborne temporarily until he pits.
Yeah, so what we're looking at here is the race for the win here, the race for the lead, at least for the last bunch of laps. But They're catching them, but not quite as quick. And as I say that, they really got a lot of momentum right now.
Yeah, they're not only catching them, they're going around them on the outside here. So we got ourselves a race here. Briegel and Carrier rocking the high side, going right around Condi and Gathright.
They made it look pretty easy. They
Pretty
have
easy.
really good momentum.
Yeah, they're no doubt the high side is where you want to be. Condi's going to find himself a partner here, and he'll push his way back into this thing, I'm sure of it. But we got ourselves a six-way battle for the lead, 15 to go here at Daytona in the 250.
Now the interesting thing is, how long do they stay hooked up and running in line, and when does somebody start making moves?
Yeah, those are great questions, TJ. Someone's going to make a move here sooner than later, I would imagine. For me, that time is usually 10 to go. I like to make a move, not the move, a move, just to test, just to see what it'll take. You know, you can back out of it and regroup and do it with 3 to go or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's a good plan of attack, is to have that test move when you got enough laps left that you can just kind of test it, see where it's going to go, and then you can plan what your real move is going to be as the race winds down.
Yeah, I found if you wait too long and wait for that 3 to go, let's say, and make your move, when it doesn't work and you stall out, there's no time to rethink, no time to regroup, and you're just done. So why not, you know, you got lots of time here. You can test all kinds of things at this point. But right now, these guys just want to stay clean, I would imagine, and make it to the finish. The top 6 is a great finish. So even if you're in 6th, TJ, you got to be pretty content to just ride this out and let nobody else catch you and no caution come out.
Yeah, because the thing about running here first through 6th place is you don't want a caution that brings everybody else back into this. You want to be able to settle this amongst just 6 cars instead of 14 cars.
And I think that's clearly what you're seeing here. Nobody really doing anything crazy. We know what Condi, the way he'll push if you know, when he wants to. He's not attempting that, you know, I'm talking about Tong, actually, Condi right in front of him. And, you know, they're not really doing anything at this point. It looks like Tong may be looking to make a move now and get by Condi.
Yeah, I think they probably pretty much know what they want to do when the time gets right. So we'll have to see what that move is and when they deem the time is right to try it.
Yeah, 12 to go, lots of time still. Here logging laps. It's like one of those mid-afternoons in August, you know, and you're just, it's kind of, can you keep focused or not, TJ, at this point? Things get real comfortable right now. I'm not really pushing. I'm just riding. You're starting to lull yourself to sleep, and it looks like, is that Long getting really loose?
Really loose. Yeah, he got really loose. He did a heck of a job saving that, but that breaks up some of that momentum.
Wow. And that's what I talked about right there. It's just, and he might lose a draft. He's going to have to work real hard here to be smooth and keep with this draft. But, you know, you get lulled to sleep. You're just like, I'm just logging laps, no pushing, easy on the wheel. And that lack of focus can make it happen what just happened. You just break loose all of a sudden and it wakes you up out of a slumber.
Absolutely, and it just happens so fast, a blink of an eye, and you're fighting to hang on.
So great job by Long, great save, and he does hang on to the pack, so he's right in this thing and right back where he kind of likes to be honest with you. He'll be back here and just looking and lurking and waiting to steal this thing, and that's kind of what he did in the other super speedway race. But Briegel, how about this guy? Hey, he's led a large portion of this race. Justin Briegel has looked fantastic.
Yeah, he really has. He's had clearly a really fast car. He's been very smooth.
Oh, and Osborne off the track, he gathers it up in that big, expansive paved area there, and he's back on and running.
He's glad that area was paved, that's for sure.
Yeah, I don't know when they paved that, TJ, but that was apparently just for him.
He's glad they did, that's for sure, because otherwise he'd have been in big trouble.
So these 6 continuing to ride, 9 to go, coming down to 8 to go here. And they are going to settle this amongst themselves. It'll start to get a little race here each lap that ticks off here.
Yeah, and you wonder who's going to be the first one to try and make a move. I'm looking at the 5 car, probably be the first one to try something, whether it's his go-to move or if it's just testing the waters. But I would be betting on him to make the first move.
Well, the thing with Tong is, Tong's like someone we know in race with, is a great pusher. He doesn't necessarily want to jump out and get the lead because he doesn't trust anybody to push him the way he pushes others. He would rather have, say, Carrier jump out, and he would push Carrier right to the front, right? That's kind of who Tong is, but we'll see. And if he makes a move, who goes with him, or do they just hang him out?
Yeah, that's going to be the interesting thing to see is when somebody does make that move, does he have help? Does somebody go with him and try and make that move with him? Or do they just hang him out and move up one spot?
Well, that's another reason, TJ, that I like to try these things, say with 10 to go, or even right now, is because I want to find out, is this guy with me or not? He's not my teammate. I'm not talking to him. But if I move, will he move? And if he does, maybe when I go to 3 to go, I'm going to trust that he'll do it again. You know, but if I go down there and nobody goes with me, I got enough laps to recycle back up and make this move all over again or do something different.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. You know, you can make all the moves you want, but if nobody helps you, you're going to the back of the pack here. So you got to try and see if you can tell whether that person behind you is going to go or not.
Well, how frustrating is that, TJ? So you're in a pack like this of 6 guys, and you want to win. And maybe the other 5 guys are like, hey, I'm happy. I'm content with the top 6. I'm just going to stay in line. And if one guy pulls out, that's just one more position. We'll just go right around him. Is that like highly frustrating that nobody wants to attack, nobody wants to go and race to the front?
Yeah, I mean, it can be if you're the guy that wants to win. But some other guys have a different mindset where they just think to themselves, hey, 3rd place is better than 8th place. You know, I'm in a good spot, survive this race to this point, and a 3rd place finish is going to be really good for me, and I'm going to be happy with it. So you don't know what that guy's thinking. You know, is he thinking, hey, I want to win, or is he thinking, hey, I want to get the best finish I can?
And there goes Tong. So Tong doing the right thing, in my opinion, making this move now and see if anybody will come with him or not. I mean, there was too big a gap to really find anything out there, but he got a little test in to see how much he drops off. But with these other cars here, it's going to get interesting.
Yeah, he did a good thing there in testing to see if anybody behind him was going to drop down. They were a little far back, so you don't know 100% if they would bother to try, but it was definitely a move worth trying at that point, I think.
Oh, this contact down low. Childs turns down into, I don't know if that was leader. It was leader, I believe. And that was right by our leaders. My goodness.
That'll get your heart skipping.
Yeah, that Childs just did not see leader there and just went down and cleaned him out. And yellow comes out long after the wreck. So let's get a look in on it and see what brought out this. We're going to have to wait a bit to see what brought out this caution. You see Childs spinning out there. Caution probably came out right about now. But there was, and Childs wrecks secondarily. That might have, and stops. Yeah, that might have brought it out there. We're going to go way back though. And just see, I mean, this was crazy. So our leaders are coming up, and there goes Briegel to the high side to make it 3 wide. Childs holding pretty steady, actually. Oh, and leader got off underneath the line. Childs filed down a little bit, and then the leader come back up, and it's hard to make a call on fault or any of that, but nonetheless, there's some happy people. Willis, Menapace, Neal, Blackburn, right back in this thing. We're going to have ourselves 10 cars here with a green-white checker.
Yeah, and that's just what we talked about. Now, instead of 6 cars settling this, they're going to have company.
Yeah, none of their doing, though. So, I mean, they're going to be a little upset, but it's only 4 more cars. It's going to bring some entertainment here to the booth, TJ. So we're going to get a wild finish, I would imagine, here.
Yes, this is going to be definitely a wild finish. And you know, your initial thing, if you're say Briegel and you felt really good, is okay. Caution came out. You get a little upset that the caution came out, but now you got to focus on. All right, now I've got to do what I got to do on this restart so that I can win this thing.
Tong comes in. I love it. Nicholas Tong says, you know what? I learned a little something about these cars. You watch this car, I'll bet he's grabbing tires. And there they go. So Tong grabbing tires. I love the call. I seen the car look much better with fresh rubber on it. He's grabbing right sides only. I'm not sure about that call. That doesn't really have much. I mean, it's a good call, but with nobody else in there, he probably wishes he had 4 on. But nonetheless, Tong's got tires. He only slips to 10th. That's fine. Leader might be getting the wave around here, or the lucky dog. We'll have to see. Involved in a wreck. I'm not sure that he's qualifies for that.
Yeah, I think Tong should have. Well, he might not have known, but if you're going to give up the track position that you had, I would always take 4 tires. But maybe just the wear is on the right side tires. But he's going to be better off grip-wise anyway. But we're going to see what he can do from back here in the pack a little bit.
The problem with Tong was it was a last-minute decision. He had someone else up there kind of faking coming in, and he thought, you know what, I'm coming in. And I like it, but I would have grabbed 4. But nonetheless, 10th place. We'll see. Tong, one of those guys who's going to try to drive to the front. There's no doubt about it. Briegel and Gathright out front. Briegel's led most of this race. He's got to hate this. The anticipation of having this late shootout. He's not going to be happy about that.
Yeah, I mean, he's in the spot he's in, you know, leading. He's just going to have to guess whichever lane is going to have the momentum and try and stay in front of that. I applaud Tong for, hey, I couldn't win the race where I was at, so why not try something? Get some tires on and see what I can do.
Absolutely. Love the call. Briegel's interesting, too. Now, Briegel has got out on these restarts and kind of opened up a gap, TJ, and he's got Carrier behind him who's blinking again. He's not going to like that either, but the restart, crucial. Does he want to do that again? I mean, if he opens up that gap, that could give other guys a big run on him.
Yeah, that's the thing. He cannot afford to get a big run and a big gap because that's going to give the cars coming behind him a lot of momentum, and it's a lot easier to pass that guy when you're 5 miles an hour faster, that's for sure. I would look for him personally, I think. He's going to get enough of a jump where he can jump up in front of the 89 car. That's what I think he's going to do.
Yeah, I don't know. Carrier late here with a couple of blinks. Nothing major. Looks like it's settled down again, but he's going to... Carrier's been fast. It's just about his connection and whether it'll hold up. Condi's in there. Long, Menapace, Willis, Neal, Blackburn, and Tong at the back. And Leader back in this thing. He's got that lucky dog, and he's coming around.
Yeah, and we don't know what kind of chaos could ensue here. We could see some beating and banging, and that could open up a groove for somebody to squirt through. So this could be quite a rough few laps, let's say.
It certainly could be. You never know what might happen here. Oh, the anticipation. I can barely take it, DJ. I'm feeling as if I'm in the car.
Yeah, I'm just glad I'm not Briegel here.
Here we go. Pace car off the track. Ready to go. Green flag action. 3 to go in the Daytona 250. And you're right. Briegel straight up to the high side in front of Gathright. Carrier left out on the bottom. Someone falls off. That's Condi dropping down below the yellow line.
Yeah, Condi got the green cone. I bet he's going to get a black flag.
So these guys on the high side are rocking pretty good. Gathright, Long, and Willis behind Briegel. Here comes Tong already, shooting the gap down the middle. He's got no help yet.
We've got more cars dropping down low. Willis takes the lead on the bottom side.
So Willis drops down, 2 to go. They got to get some momentum up. They got to get it up in a hurry as Briegel, Gathright, and Long walking away a little bit. behind him. Here comes Neil. He's bringing Menapace with him.
And everybody bailed out on that bottom side there for a bit.
Menapace jumps down there. Tong says, thank you very much. I love to push you, buddy. And he's going to hop right on the bumper of him. Tong and Menapace low. Briegel and Gathright up high. Final lap, heading down into turn 3. Big run. Oh, Briegel pushed out. Gathright wiggly. Briegel back in line. Gathright long, 4 wide. Contact, more contact. Tong losing it. We stay with Briegel. Briegel, they're 3-4 wide behind him. Briegel leading this thing. 3 wide behind him, coming out of 4. Can anybody get up there? No, more wrecking. Carrier and Condi together. Here comes Keith Long one more time. Keith Long for the 2nd straight super speedway race. Steals it, comes up out of nowhere and grabs the victory. Keith Long, just like last time, comes up TJ and wins this race.
Timed that momentum as perfectly as you could, and you just got there so fast. Briegel didn't even have time to block him.
Man, you've got to find out what Keith Long is doing pre-race. Is he's sacrificing something? Is he doing something? Because he is in victory lane again. And Briegel, poor Briegel, just couldn't quite get it done. And it was because that breakup just gave too much space. You see leader up there giving Long a little tap. Unbelievable finish once again. 3rd in a row for these guys. Every race is an exciting finish here, TJ.
Yeah, that was an awesome finish there. And like you said, when those cars kind of got mixed up and beating and banging and sliding, it broke up that front group just enough that it killed any momentum that Briegel would have, and it was able to give Keith Long that opportunity to get that momentum drafting off the 87 and pull off the pass.
And look at this happy. I think he led 1 lap here tonight, and that was the most important one, the final one. Amazing job. Right now, let's get a word in from Shorba's Racing Designs. When we come back, we'll get some interviews, including Keith Long. Back. We're long and just continues to burn them down. And it looks like the 21's hopped in there to do a burnout. I'm not sure what Cody's so happy about, but Cody's in there, probably teammates, just congratulating them, TJ. Anyway, what a finish it was, man. Long, Briegel, and leader. And let's take a quick look in on our race results here. So there you see it. For the long design build, Keith Long, your race winner. Briegel has to settle for 2nd place. Leader in 3rd, Gathright. Joshua Neal, 4th and 5th. Philip Willis, Christopher Blackburn, Julian Condi. It's Carrier. Tong finishes 10th. Menapace, Osborne, McRae, Childs, Rother, Monahan, Ruckel, and Hartley all up there. Hartley having some problems, and of course you have Schroeder, who had some problems earlier on in the race as well.
Yeah, some of these guys had some up and down nights, and I think of Matthew Leiter. I mean, a couple of times we thought he was out of this thing, and he comes back and finishes 3rd. And Long just kind of lurked the whole night.
Unbelievable. Long lurking around and steals this thing. DJ, let's get right into some race interviews here. We bring in our 3rd place finisher, Matthew Leader or Leiter. You'll have to let us know, but a great job recovering and taking a 3rd place finish here.
It's pronounced Leiter, and yeah, that restart was a race amazing. I reset behind Jessica, I think it was, and then immediately on the start just gunned it, went to the outside, and by the backstretch I was already by everybody who was a lap down
Yeah.
or not on the lead lap. Coming onto the final stretch, I was like, oh, I got to stay behind the 21 just to catch the pack. Stayed behind him for the first portion of the lap. And then my big thing is once we got onto the back, I gave the 7 a shot going down the backstretch. I gave him a massive shot going down the backstretch. I'm surprised he didn't lose it. And then going into 3 and 4, the wreck happened. I stayed high with the eventual race winner. Oh my gosh. And I feel like I helped him push him to the win, because in reality, had I have gone low, I would have caused an even bigger wreck.
Well, you may have helped him. There's something definitely helping Keith, as this is his second super speedway race, much like the first one. This one was.
Hey yo,
but
hold up. In iRacing, I'm only D class. I've got like 6 races on speedway tracks, and that's it. This is my first league race here.
Well, you're looking much better than that for sure. And let's talk a little bit. We go back not too far, actually. The caution that precipitated this. You're involved with
the one
Matthew.
where me and Jessica.
Yeah, you and Jessica got together. Talk a little bit about what happened there.
I thought I was on the apron, or at least on the yellow. I could have sworn I was.
Yeah, I think there was kind of like you moved down to the apron, and she kind of come back up. And
yeah, so leaders were coming by. I don't know why Jessica didn't either stay behind me and start pushing me, why she decided to hop up a lane. But then we were all of a sudden 3 wide. I'm actually all 4 wheels inside of the yellow line, and she came down and we just touched. Somehow I ended up keeping it straight, but she didn't.
Yeah,
probably because of the second touch.
I mean, what seemed like maybe the most horrible thing that could happen near the end of the race ends up propelling you here to a 3rd place finish. So you really can't be too angry with that.
Now, you want to know the worst part of it?
Sure.
When the caution came out, Race Lab said I had to refuel for at least another half a gallon to make it to the finish.
Oh my!
I was that close on fuel.
Well, we've seen a lot of what we thought were crazy decisions with fuel, but the cars could go a little bit longer than perhaps we thought here, Matthew. Anyway, you had a great finish in 3rd place. We look forward now at Bristol, and you're saying you don't have a lot of experience. Are you racing Bristol, and how you feel about it if you are?
I've got the car. I've got the track. I'll definitely need practice on how to run the track in traffic, but other than that, I plan to run it.
Well, that's great news, and you had a great finish here this evening. And Bristol, one of the most fun tracks. Definitely need a little practice out there, though. It's the last great Coliseum. You got to do battle there, so it's going to be a tough one. But congrats on your finish this evening. 3rd place, awesome debut here. And if you got any shout-outs, anybody you want to thank, now's the time.
Just everyone who set this race up. I mean, that's really it. I've got no personal sponsorships or anybody like that, but everyone who raced, everyone who set this race up, that's all we got to thank. And everyone who watched. I don't know how many are watching.
All right, Matthew. TJ, Matthew Leiter, coming away with a 3rd place finish here this evening, doing a whale of a job.
I'll tell you right now, Matthew's race is a never give up example. You just keep fighting, keep trying, and look at him, comes home 3rd.
Come home 3rd, did a great job. Someone who did a little greater job, the number 71, Keith Long, 2nd straight super speedway. I don't know what you're doing, Keith, but keep doing it, brother. Here you are back in victory lane again.
You pick your lovers the right way, man. I mean, Matthew pushed me out coming out that outside, coming down the backstretch. He pushed me up there, and I ran Justin's butt the whole way around that track, pretty much the whole race, and he played that high side, and the whole time we were talking back and forth. I mean, that was the fastest place to be. And then off that restart, of course, he jumped up, and we were good to go, and looked like Josh got loose coming down the back. We were 4 wide, and thank goodness Matthew was behind me, because he took us up there, and I just held on for the win at that point. It was sometimes when it opens up for you, you just hit right for that middle.
Well, I got to bring it up. The last one was a little more dramatic, but much the same. Were you having flashbacks there at the end when he thought, "Here we go again. I'm gonna take it."
I'm not gonna lie, you read my mind. You know it. Yeah, it was just like deja vu. Here we go. Let's do it again, baby. Woo!
Unbelievable, Keith. I love it. I mean, just luck and skill all wrapped into one, and a little bit of the
Thank you,
skill. We
guys.
want to talk a little bit about something I noticed. It was just about 8 to go, or somewhere in there. We were talking about this is the lull in the race. This is where you're just 6 of you just run in here, and you get a little comfortable. You're like, oh, I'm just log a few more laps before doing anything, stretching out the arm or whatever, and we see you break loose a little bit. Was that the case? Was it just a little let down in focus, perhaps? And talk a little bit about like just controlling that car and in general these cars.
So it was way loose. Then I was on this track earlier in the year. I don't know if the temperature was super hot on the track. Maybe that's what it was. And actually, I don't think that was the case. But the tires were running super high, and coming off of turn 4 at the last half of that race, it was like you were on worn out tires. Um, and whenever we came out on that, the leader at that point was Justin, um, and I was running with him, and he was coming up short on fuel. I had about 10 laps more than him, but whenever he pulled down the pit, it like the air just came out from under me, and I went down into the apron and kind of rode right into it like that's what I was planning on doing, and pitted right behind him and rode him back to the front there to catch up with the leaders there before we went into that green white checker.
Yeah, it was a great job. Probably the race winning move there. I mean, other than the obvious win part at the end, but just thrilling again, Keith. And now we move on. We go to Bristol. How you feeling about that?
Bristol's like my baby super speedway. I enjoy that track. I think we're taking the trucks out on there, so that should give us all a little bit more throttle play there, and not so much in and out. So I think it's going to be a good race. I'm sure it's going to be full action and a lot of paint rubbing. So looking forward to it. I believe the Long Design Build racing team will put a car out there to compete with the big boys.
Well, we look forward to it, Keith. Another thrilling victory, and we're gonna have to call you the showman or something here soon. But
Don't fix me
excellent.
yet. I got a couple more races yet. Let me get it. Let me get a little closer to the finish, and we can start putting
No
the hot spot
nickname
on
yet.
me.
I don't know if we can resist, Keith, but
I'm
nonetheless,
good with nicknames.
that's great. It's got to feel great to have not one but 2 races under your belt, 2 victories
Yes, sir.
already. Congrats, sir! And you got any sponsors or anybody you want to thank? You go right ahead.
Of course, the Long Design Build racing team. We did it again, fellas. Then our race sponsors, Pay to Win Setups, MD Sim Racing, the Beyond the Apex, Butt Kicker, and of course the fellows of the Extreme Power League. It wouldn't be for them, we wouldn't be here. And you guys, the Tunnel TV, Wind Tunnel Television, you guys put up on a great show. I love watching you guys. I know my family loves watching you all put on the show for us. And just one little quick shout out. Second place, Justin's father's in the hospital tonight. He's probably going to be watching us on replay. I hope he gets out of there soon and gets himself back on his feet.
All right, of course, we'll second that with Justin, and congratulations, Keith. TJ Keith Long in victory lane, 2nd time already, 3rd race of the season.
Thank you, fellas. Have a good evening.
It's always awesome when you interview somebody that's so excited for the wins like that. That's really awesome to hear and see.
It is. I mean, it just brings you back to like day one, how exciting this is. And it is very close to real life racing. You have your wheel, your pedal, you're in a car basically. And it is thrilling to get out here and win these things, especially the way he does it, TJ. He doesn't go out here and just lead every lap. He leads one lap. the last lap.
Well, you got to say something. Obviously, you put a lot of work into this. It's not just you sit down and you go. There's a lot of work that goes into this. But he's already figured out there's only one lap that everybody remembers.
Absolutely. We're going to remember Keith and his super speedways no matter what happens going forward. He's going to be your points leader, of course, and we can't wait for the next one. Of course, we'll have all that action next Sunday, 6:50. It's the Extreme Power League. We'll be at Bristol in the trucks, something a little different, and going to be highly entertaining. Please come check us out. But for myself, Dean Doucette, and for Mr. TJ Bartel, that's going to wrap it up here from Daytona, and we'll see you right here next time on Wind Tunnel TV.